Hi, this is Dave DeSimone in the Wine Cellar. Welcome to this April 2017 edition in the Wine Cellar, and thank you for tuning in here on KQV 1410 AM. Remember, you can always hear archive recordings of this show and others either at kqv.com or on my website, daveswinecellar.com. And I also have a weekly blog post at daveswinecellar.com, so I hope you'll check that out, and I hope you enjoy it. Tonight, our topic in the Wine Cellar focuses on one of my favorite wine growing regions, Burgundy, in France. And specifically, we're going to take a closer look at the efforts to preserve and restore the Abbey Saint-Vivant de Vergy. This is a former home of a community of monks who helped develop vineyards that over, if you can believe it, 10 centuries, evolved into some of Burgundy's most well-known sites. And to help us in our visit tonight, I'm very pleased to welcome one of the leaders in this ambitious effort, Monsieur Aubert de Villaine. Aubert, welcome. How are you?
I'm fine. I don't. For you, it's morning, huh?
Yes, it is. We're recording. Yes.
And here at the afternoon with a bright sun and vineyards that are growing extremely fast because we have had a very warm weather, almost a drought for the moment.
Yes, well, you know, I don't have to tell you, things can change on a dime in Burgundy, and I was actually looking forward because, as you know, I'm going to be visiting Burgundy over the next few weeks, and I saw the 10-day forecast said, next week, rain in Burgundy.
Well, they announced rain, and I hope you are right.
There we go. Okay, so before we start talking about the Abbey, Aubert, I know for your personal background, just to let our listeners know, some of your early experiences actually was as a wine journalist in the United States, and you also have your own domain and work at Domaine de la Romani Conti. So just tell us briefly a little bit about those early experiences, please.
Well, regarding my stay in the U.S. in I think it was in 64, 65. I spent something like 9 months. And to say that I was a wine journalist is giving me too much credit. In fact, I worked in two wineries, and especially in the winery that was considered as the most quality winery, which was Almaden. Things have very much changed since, but being there and having friends at La Revue du Vin de France, a French magazine that you know, they asked me to write two articles about California wines, because nobody in France knew that wine was made in California at that time, in 65, and so I did, and which gave me the opportunity to interview for several hours somebody who was going to become quite a leader who was Bob Mondavi. I was told that I had to meet this person, and I remember the energy of he had not started anything on his own yet, and I think he must have been extremely surprised when I think of these times in California, what they were, what California was, and what happened with California. And it is, I think it went much beyond his most, all his dreams, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's true. Bob Mondavi, he was at Charles Krug, and his brother, passed away recently at the age of 100, if you can believe that, Peter Mondavi. So, boy, things have changed, and then of course back to Domaine Romani Conti, and that's a whole topic we can talk about in and of itself. But you also have your own domain in Bouzeron, where you specialize in aligoté. So all the pleasures and challenges of the wine growing for the last 40 or 50 years, right?
Yes, you're right. It's really in the U.S. that I decided to go to start my career in wine, and I was an apprentice at the domain for several years and learned little by little everything. And in 70, and that was in 1966,
mm-hmm.
and then in 71, I married a young, charming American, and we decided to start our own. Beside the domain, to start our own winery, and we found a winery in a very in a place totally forgotten in Burgundy, because we had no money to very little money to do it, and this was the village of Bouzeron, that where we found out that the Aligoté had special talents to make good wine, and we got an appellation, and so this winery of Bouzeron, we put it little by little on the map, and it's today managed by a nephew of mine who is doing a wonderful job there, and specializing the winery not only in Bouzeron but also in Rully, in the appellation Rully, where great Bouzeron is made 100% with Aligoté, but Rully, of course, 100% Chardonnay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that segues nicely into this next discussion, because it's the question of terroir. The terroir pre-exists, and it's for, in your case, Bouzeron. You went and discovered, and it's still I know it's something that's evolving constantly, but taking it back to the Côte d'Or and the Abbey Saint-Vivant, which is a project I know you're working on, but sort of to put it in context, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, Aubert, that you led the effort to have the UNESCO World Heritage designation for the distinct climat of Burgundy. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think that does play into this effort for the Abbey Saint-Vivant.
Well, I think it would be, perhaps, if we speak of this subject, it would be important that I say something about what a climat is.
Please.
It would be easy to say that it's a Burgundian equivalent for terroir. It's true, but this would reduce the meaning of the word climat. Terroir, the word terroir is very general. It may concern any kind of agricultural production. The word climat, it's a word that was used in France, in other parts of France, centuries ago, but it has disappeared, except in Burgundy. Until today, it is used as a word to designate a parcel of land, parcel of vineyard. And it's a notion, climat, that includes the physical vineyard itself, but also its name, its history, history that is very much linked to the religious orders who owned the vineyards and invented them in the Middle Ages. It includes the work of man, the environment. It includes the limits, stone walls, ditches. The word climat is a word that makes this parcel of vineyard go from the idea of terroir to the idea of culture. It's the climat is the climat art and culture. Voilà, that could be a definition. If it's not, I hope it's
no, it's good
clear.
because it's much more than just a plot of dirt. I mean, and I think as a vigneron, you may look at that and say, yes, this is a plot of dirt which, quote unquote, I own, but I'm also, in a way, it maybe owns the vigneron because it has a long history and there's a lot there. And I know that with the UNESCO World Heritage designation, I think, I don't know the number of climats as you describe it, Aubert, in Burgundy, but there are many, many, and that was, I think, from what I understand, part of what convinced the UNESCO to designate that, to show to the world that Burgundy is this kind of guardian of that notion of climat.
Oui, it's a site. It's a site that is, I would say, both small and relatively large. It's a result of 2,000 years of history, and it covers a ribbon of about 60 kilometers long, hardly 1 kilometer wide, from Dijon to the south of Beaune, and it shows exactly 1,247 parcels or names.
Wow.
You have 1,247 names on this ribbon, and each produces a wine with a particular taste, even if some are tastes that are quite close, but each has a particular taste that is a reflection of the place it comes from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know that with that notion, the UNESCO designation, and maybe it reminds both the outside world as well as the growers there that they have a opportunity and a responsibility. So this is Dave DeSimone. I'm talking with Aubert de Villaine. And Aubert, we're going to take a little bit of a break here, but when we come back, let's refocus now on the Abbey Saint-Vivant, because I want our listeners to learn this story, because it is fascinating. If they have any interest in Burgundy, this is something that I think they'll find interesting. So to our listeners, hang with us. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Dave DeSimone in the Wine Cellar. If you enjoy listening to my Wine Cellar programs on KQV, then please check out my columns each Wednesday in the Pittsburgh Tribune Review and online at daveswinecellar.com. And for fun wine and travel-related photographs and tips and information on local wine dinners, check out my Instagram and Facebook pages. And remember, always enjoy and share a glass of wine each day with food and friends. Thanks for listening. Welcome back into the Wine Cellar. This is Dave DeSimone, and I'm talking with Aubert de Villaine in Burgundy, and we're just talking about the climat of Burgundy. And now we're going to refocus on the Abbey Saint-Vivant, which is a little place, Aubert, that is not far from Domaine Romani-Conti, which is in Vosne-Romanée, but it's a beautiful beautiful spot at this point, but it's kind of fallen into disrepair. But describe the founding of the Abbey Saint-Vivant and its other famous abbeys at Cluny and Citeaux, please.
Very briefly, Saint-Vivant was founded in the 10th century, at the end of the 10th century. Citeaux was founded at the end of the 11th century, about 1100. Voilà, 11th century, and Saint-Vivant was affiliated to Cluny in 1250, in the 13th century. And it's interesting because at that time, Citeaux was becoming the most important order in the medieval world. Cluny was starting to go down, but still the Saint-Vivant chose to be affiliated to Cluny. And why, I don't know. Maybe because the monks Benedictine monks of Cluny, the black order, didn't work with the hands. They worked on intellectual works, but not with the hands. The Cistercians, on the other hand, worked with their hands, also intellectual, but worked with the hands, and two different ways of life. And I don't know exactly the reasons of this affiliation to Cluny, but I think it may be this taste for intellectual, because they had a very important and very renowned scriptorium. But anyway, the abbey today is a ruin. It's a ruin, but really beautiful and impressive. It's perched on the top of the highest and very steep hill in the Haute Côte de Nuit area, which is behind Vaune Romanée. I was there yesterday, and the peace, the beauty, even if the landscaping around the monastery, which is still at work, we are still working, is not finished. It was really the most beautiful and peaceful side, and I would recommend whoever comes to Burgundy to make a little detour to see that place.
Off the beaten path a little bit, off the well-trodden path.
Exactly, and I think in 1 year, 2 years maximum, it will be open to the visit.
It's a great site, and so at Domaine Romani-Conti, where you have the iconic Romani-Conti vineyard, the La Tâche, the actual Romani Saint-Vivant, these climats were affiliated with the Abbey Saint-Vivant, and I think there's a road that's called is it called the Chemin de Saint-Vivant from Vaune Romanée up to the Abbey, that technically you could go that route so that you could connect the two?
Exactly. But it's not a road. It's more of a trail.
Okay.
From time to time it's a road, but a good part of it is a trail, and it's a beautiful hike. And every year we invite the members of the association to hike from Vaune Romanée, from the domain. We go through the Romani-Conti, La Tâche,
nice,
and up into the hills to the monastery, and it is a beautiful. It's really a beautiful hike.
Yes, that would be a pretty vigorous walk. I think it's maybe 4 or 5 kilometers.
10 kilometers.
10 kilometers.
It takes about 2 hours, 2 hours and a half.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you mentioned this interesting distinction between the Cluny monks and the Citeaux monks, where the Cluny monks were praying and maybe doing writing, intellectual work. So at their vineyards in Vaune Romanée, which were donated to them, and as I understand that at the time they were donated, they were not very fertile lands. In fact, they had to be developed, but did the monks at Saint-Vivant then retain lay brothers who worked in Vaune Romanée to do that?
Yes. They had one monk who was the head and who lived in Vaune Romanée, where they had their winery. In fact, my office, where I call you from, is in their former winery.
Yeah.
And yes.
And that's where Domaine Romani-Conti makes its wine now. Is that correct? In the former.
Not makes the winery itself, where the vats and the wine is made,
so aging
further. But we have one cellar under this winery, very old cellars, where the wines were made at the time of the monks. Even if the cellars have changed, they've been certainly redone over the centuries.
Well, no, it's beautiful. I think you were heading out. It's a beautiful place. I've had the opportunity to visit, at Domaine Romani-Conti, and it maybe gives you a vision of what the Saint-Vivant Abbey will eventually be when it's restored. Some of the grandeur of the architecture, or just the beauty of it. Oui,
and it's a pity that the fact that it is a ruin gives us the opportunity to safeguard it today. And I think it's an important work, very much in the same, let's say, how could I say, very much in the same idea that the climat, the monks of Saint-Vivant invented the climat with the Cistercians, and so preserving their monastery or preserving the climat is the same fight, the same
concept, yeah.
Same concept, yes.
So what? Go ahead. Sorry.
If I can add something, Dave, to when you asked me about the. I think what the monks found when I think we know that what the monks found when they were given these lands were already in some places some vineyards, but what the great legacy to us is really the fine types of Pinot Noir. They are the ones who, through many other varietals that were used at the time, found that the Pinot Noir was the grape making the fine wines, and they planted it in blocks and started really the viticulture we have today. That's why I think it's important to safeguard their memory.
I got you. So they're the ones that made that discovery that was the best match of Pinot Noir to the Climats, and let's hope that global warming doesn't change that for us all. But that's a whole nother story. So I like this quote, and I had mentioned to you in some of the notes I sent to you, Aubert, but from original Rule of St. Benedict, where he said, monks should not drink wine. But since we cannot convince monks living on earth not to do so, then wine should be drunk in moderation, which I believe it was maybe 8 ounces a day, but it got me to thinking maybe they decided if we're only going to drink 8 ounces a day, we want to have some good quality wine too. Would you say that's true?
I think it's one reason that I never really thought of, but it may be one good reason. The reason that is put in front by historians is that they had to honor the people, the important people passing by. They had a lot of visitors, a lot of pilgrimers, and it was important to have a very good wine, at least as good as the monastery before or after, and very important to have good wines. And also, the Dukes of Burgundy would buy some of the wine and sell it in the north part of Europe, in Belgium, in what we call today Belgium and Flandre, which belonged to Burgundy at the time.
I see. So looking back on this long history of the monks being involved, the Cistercians who were the monks who worked and the lay workers, what do you think that their example can teach the wine growers today? Is it something about the spirit of work and dedication? How do you view that, Aubert, please?
Well, I don't know.
It's a long topic, I know, but in a few words.
It's a difficult question. No, it's a very interesting talk, and could go on longer. But I think if we speak of a lesson or of a legacy, let's say, it's really for me the fine types of Pinot that they cultivated and selected for centuries. They knew it was a good part of the quality of the wines they made, and they were very careful about keeping these through the provignage system, to keep these fine types. I think this is a legacy they consider very important, and also I think the humility they had in front of their production, and considering that it was given to them, and that they needed to respect it. But mainly it is these. You can have the best terroir in the world, and if you don't plant fine types of your varietal, you will never get the potential this terroir, this climat can give. So this is, I think, very, very important, and we are today, by several ways, we are trying to safeguard these very fine types of Pinot.
Yeah, almost a gift from the past, so to speak. So to our listeners, and this is Dave DeSimone, I'm talking with Aubert de Villaine in Burgundy, for the effort to restore the Abbey Saint Vivant. I know you have a website, and listeners are welcome to go to that and become members to help the effort, and maybe when they come to Burgundy to visit. Is that correct?
Is it completely correct? It's exactly what I was going to answer this question. That website, and go to the website and become member.
Yeah, and there's some beautiful pictures there of the site, and I think that, if I'm not mistaken, are there some vines associated with the Abbey Saint Vivant that you cultivate now up in the Haute Côte, some Chardonnay vines?
Yes, when we took over the monastery to try to safeguard it, there was a small vineyard going with it, and we are still cultivating it and making wine, and it makes a Haute Côte de Nuit. A Haute Côte de Nuit that is Chardonnay, that is quite nice, but it's in very small quantities.
Yeah, little quantities.
It's sold. It's not sold on the market.
Right. I think they may have a bottle or two at Le Petit Bonheur, the restaurant in Courty-Verger, so I'm going to have to try a bottle of that when I'm there. So, Aubert, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. It was a pleasure to learn about the Abbey Saint Vivant.
Goodbye, and my best to everybody.
Okay, and to our listeners, hang in there. I'll be right back. Hi, this is Dave DeSimone in the Wine Cellar. If you enjoy listening to my Wine Cellar programs on KQV, then please check out my columns each Wednesday in the Pittsburgh Tribune Review and online at daveswinecellar.com. And for fun wine and travel-related photographs and tips and information on local wine dinners, check out my Instagram and Facebook pages. And remember, always enjoy and share a glass of wine each day with food and friends. Thanks for listening. Welcome back into the Wine Cellar. Thank you again to Aubert de Villaine for discussing the Abbey Saint Vivant and the Climat of Burgundy. And for your information, do go to the website for the Abbey Saint Vivant. I think you'll find a lot of great information about Burgundy. Think about becoming a member of the association that is restoring the Abbey Saint Vivant. I think you'll find a lot of satisfaction in helping this effort. Thank you again for tuning in to the Wine Cellar tonight. Until next time in the Wine Cellar, this is Dave DeSimone saying good night.